What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in this one, I'm actually going to be sitting down with one of my co-founders at Blackcloud AI, and we're going to be breaking down one of our customer service solutions. So we're going to show you guys the concept behind it, how it works, and how we built it. Be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I can show you exactly how you can get access to this solution and implement it into your own business. All right, so Jerry, if you had to describe this solution that we've created, right? It's kind of one of our more popular solutions and our more popular use cases that we've seen. So if you had to describe it, from a high level, how would you do that?
I guess the idea behind it was right to kind of get a solution out there that could help customers kind of capture a little bit more of that traffic, right, that comes to their websites, right? So for people visiting their sites, getting customer information so that you can retarget them later. So having a space where somebody can, instead of having to reach out to a person, can maybe talk to a chatbot, right, to ask it a couple questions really quickly, get some more information immediately, and then also while they're doing so, it could help you on the back end capture users' information, right? And then also get calls booked on the calendar by having it integrated with your calendar. And the thing is, the beautiful thing about some solution like this is like it's not necessarily niche specific, right? So it's it can be very universal, right? Because there's always that need to capture leads, right? And then if you're in a service-based industry or consulting, that's where I guess if you have to pick a niche, you can benefit a little bit more, right? Because a lot of your job consists around getting appointments booked, getting calls, capturing leads, retargeting people. So having something that kind of gives you back some time and alleviate that pressure a little bit would be great to just sit on your website or be via your social media or wherever.
And so you alluded to it right there. You mentioned that it'd be a great place to host it on your website, but what other places would be a good place to host it, right? So you mentioned social media. Is that a good place? Should it only be on the website?
Social media and websites are some of the biggest ones because those are where it's, at least in today's day and age, you get a lot of traffic and just from people just browsing the internet or just looking for more information and stuff like that. So if you had some kind of system in place that would just help you convert a greater percentage of those people into potentially paying customers or even just information for you to have on them for further marketing or whatever, that has value in itself. Okay, so this is the Black Cloud homepage, right? And if you look in that bottom right hand corner, you'll see the little chat bubble. So this is where that chat bot that we built sits. So when you open it, you kind of greet it with the message and it just kind of asks you how can I help you today. So this chatbot can answer anything from like frequently asked questions to information about Black Cloud, pricing, services, questions about AI in general, and that a lot of those answers are coming from our knowledge base that the chatbot and the AI is trained on. But then if anybody asks any queries or things that are outside of information provided in that knowledge base, right, we have a GBT attached on the back end that allows it to broaden its scope of responses, right, and still be able to answer some of those more ambiguous questions or questions that land a little bit outside of the scope that we initially planned for. So, like for instance, if I just ask, "What does Black Cloud do?" This is an example of a question that can be found on the not inside the knowledge base, right? So it'll give you a response with a bit of bullet points of different pieces of information, and then if you were to say ask it a question that's a little bit more outside the scope, like is AI useful useful for me as a realtor, for example. This is definitely one of those questions that aren't necessarily going to be covered directly inside a knowledge base, right? But using that GPT on the back end is still able to give you a pretty precise answer with bullet points on reasons as to why AI could be beneficial for whatever given industry profession that you do. And then after you've interacted with the chatbot a little bit, we've also added functionality to where you can book the call directly from the chatbot itself, right? Just by expressing you want to do so. So you just let the bot know, and then it acknowledges that, and it also kick off a different uh, integration or pathway, right? That allows you to book the call directly onto your calendar by just giving it some information around availability, um, time slots that work for you, So let's say we're gonna go 4 p.m. Yes. And then now here's where a little bit of that lead capture piece of it comes in, right? So after confirming, right, time and date, we're just gonna grab a little bit of information from the user, right? For to give you some more to allow you to build that user profile for you to be prepared coming into the meeting, and also to build your CRM, right? To have user information that you can then retarget via email, SMS, or whatever you choose to do.
Yeah, so kind of like what he was saying. And the reason we even bring that up is because you can directly just link your, like a direct link to your Calendly, and they can go in and then book directly with you that way. But kind of the reason that we have split it up this way is because, it allows for us to control the lead capturing in a more efficient way, right? So they're giving us their information now. We can send that off to a database on the back end, and we can also allow them to book a call seamlessly. So that's why we kind of split it up and have it kind of talking them through the entire booking process, because we're capturing their information, sending it to the backend database, as well as booking their booking their call on our calendar. And this solution can be customized to, whatever business you have. So any of the data that's actually in the knowledge base can be updated, it can be changed, things can be added, removed, whatever. You can, and the same way that there might be questions that the user asks that are outside of the scope of the knowledge base, you can have your GPT integration give it specific instructions and a specific prompt to be able to answer the questions that the user asks in a specific way, right? So it's a very customizable solution. And if you want to add more value adds, like for example, I know that a lot of solar companies, or I know some solar companies in general, have a similar solution to this, and the bots on their website will allow you to, calculate solar savings if you were to switch from, regular heating to solar. So there's value adds like that you can add in as well to make it a more solution that fits more closely to your business and your brand.
Right. And then once you reach the end of whatever your flow may look like through the chat bar, right, you get a confirmation of the successful booking of that appointment, right, with date, time, and then the user will get an email to that email address they put down confirming the booking, and you also get a notification, right, an email stating that you got a new appointment on your calendar. But that in essence is currently what the bot does that sits on our website, and this is one of those. It kind of solves a lot of the main issues we'll have, right? So it alleviates, or it captures about 80%, 70 to 80% of the queries and things that users could be uh, looking for, right, when they interact with like a chatbot or something on your website. Okay, so within VoiceFlow, this is what that chatbot solution looks on the back end within the editor. So we kind of zoom into this, we can kind of walk through all these different components. It's kind of like what's going on here. So in the first half of this is kind of like where we have our almost that customer support loop or that general knowledge loop, right? Where every user query first gets ran to this AI step that just tries to query our knowledge base to see if the answer to that query can be found within the knowledge base, right? And if it's not found within that, that's when we then go into that chat GPT step where we take that same query, right? And we run it through chat GPT to then provide an answer. So in that way, just kind of making sure that the bot will always be able to give some kind of response to a user's query.
Yeah. And also if you click into the GPT step and then you go to prompt settings, so you can see that we also have our own system prompt, right? So we have our own prompt on the back end that we are prompting ChatGPT to respond in the same manner that it would if it was just querying our knowledge base, right? We're making sure that it knows it is our assistant. We're making sure that it knows that it is our assistant and it should respond as such.
Right. And then this loop could keep going on for as long as somebody wants to keep talking with the bot, right? But with the use of these cool things called intents, right? Certain phrases or intent behind people's messages or sayings could then jump the conversations to different areas of the workflow. So one of those being that book appointment intent. So when the user's kind of showing some interest in wanting to book appointment, that's what's going to kickstart this book appointment this larger book appointment flow. So we kind of walk into how this is set up a little bit. Initially, we just ask you some information around availability, right? And then from the users, but the first thing is we're formatting the date. So using an AI step, kind of prompting the AI to see what kind kind of tell like what kind of information, how we want it to format the information that's given in this block, right? And then if for some reason it's not given that information, we kind of tell it that we want it to return wrong day, right? As we're using that as like a little keyword to kind of route paths. And then from that point, right, if everything works out there, we then kind of want to check if the AI step right here was actually formatted the dates in the format we were looking for. So here we have some JavaScript that will it just kind of checks the formatting of the date and make sure everything's valid, and it also checks that if, for example, if somebody's using February on a given year, give it the leap day, so that if somebody were to put say February 29th for one of those years, right, the bot would not tell them that it's a wrong date. And moving on, the next check we kind of have is just to make sure that people aren't users aren't putting in dates in the past, right? Because you wouldn't be able to actually set a date back then. So it's just another quick little check just to validate information. So an additional thing that was also added was, on top of that, just another check just to make sure that this could be also tweaked depending on when your hours of operation are and things like that, and then which pockets of time you want the bot to show as available when it comes to booking calls on your calendar. So I've added a piece where it just checks if at any given day is on a weekend, as we wanted to block off the weekend, so restricting just the weekdays to be the days in which appointments can be booked. And then in this step here is where just resetting the min max dates for in the formatting. So your start time and your end times. And then this is where we're setting the hourly intervals in which one can book an appointment. So if you're looking to, you can set this total number of hours, right? Because we're setting hours and using military time to when your pocket of time will start. And then we have some comments here to kind of tell you like what it's currently set up for, right? And then there's some specification of time zones and any adjustments to time that needs to be done to make it so that it fits within wherever you're living. But this is where all those settings can be set, and you can also specify, right, the gap in between each appointment window.
So yeah, we have our sets at 30 minutes, but it can be 45-minute intervals. It can be 40 minutes, an hour, whatever time interval you want. You can make it whatever you want. We only wanted 30 minutes, so that's how we set ours.
Right. And then this box ingredient, this is the first like API block that we're using. So this is, we're basically just hitting the free busy Google API. So it's the API for Google Calendar that essentially just returns back busy times for a calendar you give it. So this is how you can kind of, we're using this to check, right? Any time that the person is looking to book an appointment, to make sure that you aren't already booked during that time slot, so you don't double book, and to make sure that every available time slot the bot shows is actually available on your calendar. And then in here, you just have some raw formatting that you can give it. So this is start time, end time. These are passed in times from your specified windows, and then your time zone, and then in here is where you would put the calendar ID from your Google Calendar that is pulling this information from and checking your calendar to see whether or not you're busy within some of these time slots. And then here's what that JavaScript looks like. That's actually going to be pulling your time intervals and formatting it into and storing it in a variable. We just have it called busy intervals, right? That we're going to do some further processing with. So in this JavaScript, we're subtracting the busy time slots from your available time slots. So whatever window you provided as potential times to book, we're then removing the time slots that already are occupied, right, or busy that from the free busy API, so that when the bot responds to or shows the user available times, right, it's already going to have removed your busy times from still within your range. Okay, so then now we have just a check if the available slot is empty. So right, if the time slot that was selected, just checking if it is empty, right? And then so we have that error, right? So if there's, sorry, there doesn't seem to be an availability on that date, pick another date, right? So that means the time you had entered is not available, right? So it'll send you back to that loop for you to pick a new time slot. But if that time you selected is available, then the bot is going to respond to the user with another AI step that's prompted, telling it how we want the response formatted, right? Acknowledging that, okay, the available time slot's there, and then also listing out the time and how we want it formatted, just to make it so it's easy for the customer to digest. And then now with all those times available, right, you can then ask the customer what time they want to book. They give it a time, but also we're also giving the option that if, let's say, for example, they accidentally put the wrong date, or they realize that, oh, actually, I don't think I want this date, we give them an option here to kind of go back to that date selection in the process and pick a new date and potentially change the time they're on after. So after that, you now that they want to continue, that's cool. They show the bot will then send put another message confirming that, okay, that's the time you wanted, cool, and then it'll format that message, right, saying, okay, here's the slot you picked, and then ask them to confirm it. And then once they do, it'll display a message like saying, okay, this is the time you picked, the day, and then you confirm that, right, with this yes or no on these buttons. And then once that's done, it'll then kick off the book appointment workflow, which we have set here as a component. So it could just be put in a different page. And then we can kind of go and look into that on this side. So this is what that looks. This is the part in which we're actually going to be booking the appointment on the calendar. So if we zoom into this, now once we reach this step, this is where we start gathering a little bit of information, right, for that lead capture piece of it a little bit. So we just ask a series of questions, right, where at each step we're capturing the user's information into different variables that we maintain access to, and then we're going to end up passing to our Google Calendar to kind of populate that calendar invite. So that's essentially what a lot of this is here.
Yeah, and this is kind of two birds, one stone, right? So we collect the information, one, so that we can send it to our backend database, but two, so that we can also, when preparing for a meeting, like let's say somebody goes ahead and like books a meeting on our calendar, we have everything inside of our Google Calendar meeting. We have all the information on the customer, so that way we can prepare much easier, right? We understand we understand who they are, what their business is, and things like that, right? So we can much more easily prepare for the meeting that we're about to have with them.
Yeah, and then this piece here is just extracting those start and end times, right? That we're gonna use to pass to make automation that is going to create the calendar event in Google Calendar for us. So this is what would make another API call here. So that's what it looks like. And then you click on form data, and this is where you kind of do those mappings, right? Of what information you want passed to the webhook from Make. That'll then be sent over to create the Google Calendar event. So these are all the different things that we wanted to pass over. So all those are mapped here. And then once you have all that done, we have another AI step here that's just kind of it's signifying the end of the appointment setting process, telling them, okay, congratulations, the appointment's been set, reiterating the time, date. And then at the very end of it, we have a create lead custom function that we created that now taking that information that we've also captured can create a lead in our own backend database. So we have this customer's information that we can then use later for things like email marketing or reaching out to them for whatever various needs. So if we kind of go into looking what that looks like too, it's a little bit simple because it's a custom function, so it's a lot more code based. So there's just a little bit of error handling.
Yeah, so you can if we go into it, you can see it if you go to the contents on the top right, so where the knowledge base is, top left, I mean. Yeah, on the left, yeah, content. And then go to functions. Yeah, and then if you click into it, so yeah, you can see all of the JavaScript code that was used to create the lead. It basically all it is, it looks like a lot of code if you it looks like a lot of lines of code if you're unfamiliar with coding. Basically, all it's doing is doing an API call, right? We're basically just doing an API call to send all that data to our backend database, which we're using Airtable.
But yeah, and then after that gets done at the end of the book appointment, right? So you will essentially kind of just pop back out of all that, and then it just that's the end of the flow, and then the conversation ends.
Yeah, so that's the solution in a nutshell, right? So it's a customer service solution, it is a lead capturing solution, and it is also an appointment booking solution all in one. So we have it hosted on our website right now, but as we talked about earlier, we can host this kind of anywhere we want, anywhere that your users are. That way we can, capture them and book them on your calendar. So there we go. That's our complete customer service solution from start to finish. If you're interested in getting access to this bot completely for free, then join my Skool community down below and it'll be under the YouTube section. If you watched to this point into the video, thank you very much. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.